What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Vitamin Lead, your healthy dose of leadership. I'm your host, TJ Reed, and today we are talking about the power of the pause. The power of the pause. You remember, if you're an 80s kid like me, do you remember Zach Morris from Saved by the Bell? He'd be going through life, and when things got a little bit hectic, he'd go, time out, and he'd take that second. Or maybe you liked one of the early 2000 movies. That's one of my favorites to watch each year, called Click with Adam Sandler, where he continued to find himself fast forwarding through life. But when he got and he saw what the end of his life looked like, he wished he would have paused more. And so today I want to talk about the power of the pause and how this sometimes comes to us in our lives without us even realizing that it's coming. But the power of the pause is so important because on the remote, the pause is there for a reason. And I want to talk about three things that the pause is there for. The first one is this. The pause helps you think through what has happened already. You see, if we're not intentional about our lives, sometimes we can go through the movie of our lives and bad habits just continue to pile up because we haven't taken a second to pause. And so, man, the power of the pause is a way to kind of interrupt bad habits and find how to hack them or tweak them or do something different. I think when you hit pause there and you think about what's happened already, you can begin to say, hey, are there themes to this story of my life? The same way that you'd look at the themes of the movie that you're watching, right? What are they trying to say here? What's it going to be like going forward? Are there themes to the story of your life? And then you begin to ask yourself, I'm the main character of this story. What have I liked about it so far? What would I change about it so far? Hitting pause and taking those intentional moments in our life to be able to say, okay, what's happened so far in the story? It's so important because I think we hurt so many people when we fail to pause and really deal with kind of unforgiveness, hurt, resentment, regret, frustration, those sorts of things. If we don't hit pause every once in a while, take a deep breath and reflect on what the story's been up to this point, man, we miss it sometimes. And we can begin to create bad habits and patterns that don't need to be there. So that's the first one. The pause helps you think through what's happened in the story already. Second of all, the pause gives you time to talk with others who you've been watching it with. My wife and I were watching something on Netflix and she goes, hey, hit pause. I want to go get something to eat or something like that. Right? Grab the remote, you hit pause. And then usually during that time, we end up talking about it. If we're watching a stand-up comedian, oh, what did you find funny so far? If we're watching a movie, oh, that was really interesting how that character did that. But it's so important that when you hit pause and you're watching a movie with other people, that you take the time to discuss with the other people. My friend Noah Kay, he has a podcast called What If? And a couple of weeks ago, he did a podcast on mentors. And one of the things he said that was so good, he said one of the benefits of like long-term mentors in your life is if you're talking about some of the thing that's going on in your life, they can begin to point out how those patterns have lined up in your life. Hey, it seems like we visited this before, he said, 5 years ago. Why is that creeping back up? Why is that a part of the story right now? And those long-term mentors are so helpful. If you let people into your story, you hit pause and you talk about it with them, man, ask some of those great questions. Hey, what are you seeing? Am I missing something? I found it so helpful because sometimes other people who maybe have different emotional sensibilities, they might be able to point out something that I totally missed. And that's so important to the story that I go, oh, crap. Why did I miss that? But the minute that I hit pause on the remote and ask them those questions, the more I can hear those insights that I need to hear. Because the fact is as much as those movies that I'm watching are written, the fact is I get to write the rest of my story. I'm a writer, director, producer of what's going on next. So those friends and those people that I hit pause with, they can begin to help me to write a better story because they might see things I don't see right now. And so then the third thing is the pause gets you ready for the rest of the story, right? I've been saying this already. What's next will probably follow the patterns of what's been happening up to this point, right? if you're stopping to think about what does this change in my life look like, it probably looks like the way that you're wired and the strengths that you've brought to it up to this point already. Right? I mean, that's typically what you find. You don't usually find a deviation from that. Now, the only exception, I think, would be if you've been doing bad habits or been in a dead-end career or something like that, and it's time for a big change. I think you still will work with how you're wired and try to help yourself with those things. But man, the great thing is that if it's a bad story, you can actually change it, right? If you're self-medicating with food, alcohol, drugs, if you're struggling with mental loops that you've been going through, you can seek out help through mental health counseling to help yourself and your marriage. If you've been struggling in the workforce and you feel like you're in a dead-end job or that those jobs are disappearing in this thing, there's always new skills you can learn. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room, but you do need to seek out the tools that can help you to do those sorts of things. And so hitting pause, boop, taking a second to reflect on that sort of stuff will actually begin to help you to think about, okay, here's how I can rewrite the story going forward. The most important thing I would say out of all of those 3 points is that just use your pause for a purpose, right? Use your pause to reflect on the past. What has it looked like up to this point? Then use your pause to really get the friends around you to begin to ask the questions of, hey, what patterns are you seeing? What am I missing here? And then use your pause to write a better story, because if you're breathing, you have a purpose today. You can move forward. You can do something different. But the power of the pause and stopping must be utilized. And so let me encourage you today. If you feel like life's hurtling out of control, pause. Stop, reflect on the past story, talk to friends who have seen the patterns in your life, and then choose to write a different story today. Friends, thank you for listening to Vitamin Leads, your healthy dose of leadership. And remember, it's the power of the pause that's going to make all the difference today. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.